All right, guys. Welcome to the first For the Love of Female Thursday session. This is a new series by Netcore Cloud. We have our brand FTLOE, which is For the Love of Females. We do a lot of webinars, podcasts, newsletters, virtual events, and we are adding this new series, which is every Thursday 6 p.m. We'll catch up 6 p.m. IST. We catch up to talk about how email drives growth or what are the email strategies, practical tips and tricks that have worked for brands, for businesses, and how you can use email as a channel to drive growth and engagement for your company. So we are delighted to welcome you. In case you have heard us or joined and seen our content at FTLOE, great. If you are a first timer here, we would encourage you to go and subscribe to our podcast, which is For the Love of Female podcast. It is available across all platforms, and we'll get started. So let me just share my screen. I think uh, my screen needs to be. Hi, who is the host? Can you all enable my screen sharing? Amazing, thank you. Okay, I hope we all are able to see the screen. Okay, awesome. So guys, we want to know how we can transform the email program into a growth machine. I'm sure whether you're a B2B company or whether you're a B2C company, we all have been using emails to drive growth or emails to drive engagement. We have customers we want to talk through emails. Uh, we have our email lists, which are getting, I mean, if you're an e-commerce, email is your bread and butter. If you're not, if you're a job board, then email is your bread and butter. So I'm sure email in any ways we have used, and the companies are driving growth engagement through email. So today there is a special framework we have brought in to ensure that you can look at all elements that can turn around your email program. So my name is Tanishq Juneja. I'm Global Product Marketing Head, Netcore Cloud. In case you think you have learned something awesome today, you can you can tag me at Tanishq Juneja on Twitter, and you can also use our hashtag For the Love of Emails if you also believe in emails. So growth and comfort do not coexist, right? So if you really think that your email program is not giving you enough growth, we have to do a lot of experiments. We have to look at things really differently. And that is why I wanted to start with this quotation. Email is underrated, but not underperforming. We did this survey and launched a email benchmark report 2020, and which said 77% users prefer 77% users prefer brands to communicate with them over emails in 2020. Of course, there's a huge shift during pandemic and post pandemic as well. I think last 2 years have been significantly different. There's a paradigm shift in the way marketers are using email as a channel. So I have certain observations which we would like to share. There's a sudden growth in the usage of email as a marketing channel. Of course, I see a lot of, I mean, even in B2B space, a lot of marketers have started using email as a channel. What triggered this growth? A shift from offline to online. A lot of brands have moved online. Everyone has started feeling that I need to be in touch. I need to be in touch with my user. I need to be in touch with my customer, even if I'm not selling him anything, or even if I'm not doing any transaction. So that whole transactional relationship has moved to conversational relationship. New age startups embracing email marketing. Yes, I see this a lot now. A lot of new age companies are trying to innovate a lot of emails. The kind of emails they are writing, or the kind of copy they use is amazing. There are new innovations in email that are driving better ROI. I'm sure we all are aware of AMP, BIMI, the way these innovations are coming in, and the way email is becoming more interactive as a channel is helping the growth of email usage in the last 2 years. And yes, we saw 30% increase in number of emails average user receives in mailbox. So that's a very promising information, that how brands are relying on email, how users are looking at emails a lot more, how emails are communicating your stories as brands to your consumer. Okay, now we are coming and talking about the framework. Please remember the fundamentals of growth. Every element in email is important. You just have to look at the right place. Okay, let's look at email ID. You cannot start sending out emails if you do not have email ID. And when people subscribe to your email list, please remember they are people. Let's take an example. Someone comes to your shop. What do? You show them around. You don't start selling them upfront. You show them around. You try and figure out what do they need. Then you show your best products to them. You try and understand further how is their interest, how is their intent, and that's when the deal happens. And if your after sales service is good, a lot of people recommend, a lot of your consumer would recommend you as a service. And that is where the aha moment happens, right? Do we do that? Do we do that with our email IDs? Do we think about our email IDs as people? This email ID is a person and not just an email ID. I need to do a lot more. I need to understand them a lot more better. The first and the most important thing when you're trying to start your email marketing is your list. It's no more a list, it's people, right? So make sure that you have an amazing welcome program in place. Make sure that you are trying to know the intent and habits of your user and know at least this much that you are able to send relevant context or relevant content to them every time. The second thing we come down in the chronology is like you have email ID. Now you have email templates. Email templates are also very, very important. While people like to believe that they're thinking rational and logically, your users are always under the cognitive influence or biases, right? So whatever the way we live, the influence, the beliefs we have all around, the decisions which our people take or the judgments which are happening all around you, it makes up for a cognitive influence which we obviously have. We don't feel it, but it is there. Every time we take a decision, it is there. And these cognitive influences also materializes in your email template. So let me show you an example. Serial position effect, which means that whatever you position as the top template or top product in your email template will get better noticed. And hence, the moment someone opens your email template, let's look at placing our best product and the best offer there. It's very important that you do not disturb that place with anything which is mediocre, right? So if you're going to position 3 products within your email template, the first one is very important. Place the best product, the best offer in that position, and start with the most important message and end with a killer deal. Again, the last, like if I have 5 to 6 products within the email template, I would remember the last one I've seen. I would also remember the first one. Hence, the first one has to be like amazing product, amazing deal. So if you see some of the templates which Amazon sends, they have best of the best. So they know that best of the best means that the anchor is, you should remember this in case when you want to come and buy. Best value also consider, etc., etc. But it depends on the kind of product you are selling. So maybe you are not selling B2C products. If you're selling other products, then you'll have to do some multivariate testing to figure out what is the best product that is selling. If you're getting more clicks in your second and third product in the email template, then you might want to again experiment that should those products be placed as a first product. There's this amazing campaign which talks about every time you buy something from this brand, they plant a tree. And hence, again, it creates a cognitive bias. Like I really can buy a product from an alternative brand, but I want to buy it from here because I feel that I'm going to add to the society or I'm going to contribute to the society. And this goodness effect also creates FOMO impact, and hence people want to go and buy with your brand. This email template is again an amazing email template where we talk about concepts of how you can create goodness and how it can create FOMO impact. Now, let's look at subject lines. We spend hours and days sometimes to build our email template, but how much time do we spend in creating a subject line? Right? Maybe a few minutes. We copy we copy what we see in our Google mailbox, or we copy our competition subject line. We think that their subject line could be much better, or we come up with some crazy subject lines, but the time spent on subject line is really very, very low. So if your subject line is the door to your email campaign or to the performance you are going to get, it is an underdog, but it requires a lot of time. I think you should spend good amount of time when you're doing your when you're building great subject lines. There is one framework which I'm sharing with you all. This is an amazing framework and it works most of the times. We call it mental cost and value model. So mental cost is, let's suppose you don't know me and we catch up at an airport. Let's suppose we catch up at the airport and I ask you for your visiting card. You might not be able to share your visiting card because I'm completely stranger to you. So there's a mental cost. Similarly, when you're selling your product, there are mental costs associated with the product. If you are able to address those mental costs, you will see you are winning your consumer by subject lines. And I'll give you an example. Let's suppose you are selling home loans. Now, what are the mental costs which a consumer could have, or challenges when they're looking at your email or when they're really thinking about home loans? High interest rates. Is the bank reputed enough? Are the installments rigid? And I'm sure there could be more such challenges or mental costs which you can identify when you're selling something. Now, when you're building subject lines, try and see if you can build value against those mental costs. Like, for example, for high interest rates, get lowest interest rate on your home loan. Maybe within the email, you can also authenticate that through some source or through some public opinion. Reputed bank. So you use a bank name, or you say that, how many people you have disbursed the home loans. So it sort of gives authenticity to your mental cost. Rigid installments. So less stress, more flexibility on your home loan EMIs, right? So there's a group of or segment of people whose mental cost is about installments. They want to be flexible with your installment. They can't pay high or they can't pay low, or at the time when they want to pay high installment, it should be very, very flexible. Now, if you look at this whole model, you can easily go out, put down your mental cost of the products you are selling, create a subject line with a value prop. The value prop could be like the way you see here: lowest interest rate, 10 million home loaners, more flexibility, etc. And then figure out, there is a good way to do it, hallway testing. People who match your ICP, which is your ideal customer profile, if they are around, show them your subject lines. If let's suppose you have more than 2 mental costs, there could be 4 or 5 mental costs as well. And if there are great subject lines, you can build on them. Then show it around to people and select the top 2 best subject lines or top 3 subject lines and do a split A/B and figure out which subject line works the best for you. This model has worked 90% of the time for me or for the customers we consult, and it gives you amazing results. Okay, we all are aware that there is privacy update happening all across device providers and mailbox providers, etc. And there was GDPR a few years back, and now there are so many compliance which are coming. Similarly, Apple has come with their mail privacy protection, which protects user to share the details of which device or which IP the user is opening the email from, and even your open rates. So let's suppose today, if you come under that compliance and you as a user are checking your mail, then your vendor is not able to track your open rate. So which means that now open rates will significantly become obsolete day by day. And hence your CTAs are very important. Your call to action buttons are very important. How often we do experiments with our CTAs. Now look at this. Let's suppose there's a sign up button on your website or on your email template or somewhere else. You are asking them to sign up for a service, sign up for a product or something else. You can use icons like male, female, or gender to get to know the information about your user. You can create buy now, where you are able to predict the customer is going to buy cosmetics or customer is going to buy e-commerce products or fashion related products or etc. etc. So you can create very, very smart iconography on your call to action buttons. And each call to action button becomes a source of information for you, right? And this can be done very easily through AMP now, right? You can drive surveys, you can use a lot more ambitious call to action buttons. Think of it that every CTA in the email is like a call to action. It's like a information of my user. Every time they click, you are getting to know your user better. And obviously you need to collect all of that data and process it. You need to ensure that I'm able to make sense of this information as well. So yeah, that's one very important experiment. If you have not tried, you should try. And it also reduces the whole burden of sending out surveys and then knowing more information about the user by asking them to reply, etc. Okay, every unsubscribe is important. Now, I'm sure people who are unsubscribing means they're leaving your list. They might be leaving your business. And how could that be important, right? So we spoke about email ID, we spoke about subject line, we spoke about email template. People are clicking on your emails, but they're also clicking on your unsubscribe. How can this be important? The way you have to look at your unsubscribes is that someone who is leaving my list could be a very, very loyal customer to my brand, right? So not all users who unsubscribe are same. So I remember there is this e-commerce brand, and when we looked at their churn, when we looked at the number of people who unsubscribe from their list, was close to 10, 15,000 subscribers every month. But the number of new users they were adding was much higher. So they would not bother about unsubscribes. We did some research. We said, let's look at, are these users who are unsubscribing are genuinely users who have purchased or transacted, or they are now just bored of the content and they were just browsers and they never purchased anything. We figured out that there were, out of those 15,000, there were 1,200 to 1,500 such users who have bought, I mean, I don't know the amount exactly, but they bought a lot of stuff from that brand over the period of 1 year. And the brand was, when the brand came to know, they were ready to spend a lot of money to reacquire them, right? They were ready to send cakes to their homes. They were ready to send something else to their homes, a free coupon, discount, anything requires to get them back. Because in 1 year, the value of that user was very high. The amount of transactions they have done was incredible. So think about it. If this user has spent $3,000 in last 1 year with your brand, would you want to spend $500 to get him back? You will, right? So there are examples, right? If you're let's suppose if you're a food tech brand, can you send a cake to a user to win back their trust? Can you send a handwritten note to that user from the CEO? Can you make a free meal in a 5-star hotel to earn their trust back? Like, what can you do to earn their trust back and have them again, becoming your subscribers and then ordering food from you? So I think this is one very important thing. In case you are getting 100 unsubscribes a day, the number could be very small, but what is more important is look at which specific user is going out, what kind of user is going out, and is it worth spending money and time to get that user back? I mean, these are some of the top elements which are extremely important when it comes to email. There's a bonus framework which I would like to share before. I mean, there's bonus element which I would like to share before we move forward. You do a lot of experiments when it comes to email marketing. Email experiment is not just about experiment. That is a cognitive science. So for example, when we look at cart abandonment, most of your emails, when someone abandons a product in the cart, they go in 24 hours, 48 hours, etc., right? If you want to really look at the habit of people who abandon the cart, 80% of the people who abandon the cart, they buy the product in the next 2 to 3 hours with either you or someone else. So in case they're buying the product from someone else, isn't it wise to send out the cart abandonment email within the first 2 hours of cart abandoning rather than waiting for 24 hours? Most of the brands or most of the e-commerce players out there, or most of people who are selling products online, when the cart abandonment happens, you're trying to send an email to remind them about they have left something in the cart. Could be 24 hours later, 48 hours later. So I think we should be very, very open to experiments, even these smaller elements. They are more like cognitive science and not just experiments. Now let's relook at the framework we spoke about. Email ID we see as revenue opportunity. How you should see it as people who will buy and refer you, right? This is your aha moment. So are you giving every email ID an amazing experience because you want them to buy from you and refer you? Template. Your template, how we see, is like a brochure or a banner, but it is a way to create a positive influence because there is a cognitive science. There's an influence theory. So every time you create an email template, you might want to look at where should I place my product, which product is most clicked, should I change the position of that product? It creates a positive influence. Your subject line is an incentive to open. The way you should look at your subject line is it solves the mental cost by creating value. As long as your subject lines are not misleading and they are addressing some or the other mental cost and creating value, you will get amazing open rates. Your call to action is your next stage of funnel. Obviously, when people click, we see that, okay, now the person has moved to the next level. But what I would say is that every time you have an opportunity for someone to click on your email, try and use that as an opportunity to build sentiments and enrich personas. One thing which we witnessed during the last 2 years is the need of connecting with people. So marketers, they went from being transactional, or can I say conversion oriented, to conversations, right? But how would you drive conversations if you don't know about your user enough? So if you want to drive conversations, you need to know. If you want to build brand recall with your users, if you have to be very, very relevant when you're sending them emails, right? So use your CTAs to build personas, enrich sentiments so that you can drive conversations which are much, much relevant and healthy. If you look at unsubscribe as not interested people, they are more like your loyal friends who are breaking up. So what do you do if your friends break up? Do you just leave them, or do you want to try and figure out if you can get them back? Right. So please ensure that you remember these framework of how do you build email onwards, how do you build email, take these email elements, build on top of it, try some experiments, and see if you can make your email program a growth machine. Thank you so much. The secret impresses no one. The trick you use is everything. So if I show you the trick, if I show you what the trick looks like, you'll not get impressed. But when the magic is shown to you, you'll get really impressed. So I would want you to go and try this experiments out and impress people. So I would like to take up questions, but before I forget, the next Thursday when we meet, we have Chetu, our global business at Netcore Cloud, talking about reactivation is better than reacquisition and strategies around it. Now, I'm happy to take up questions in case there are any questions.
So we have one question, Tanish. It says, does unsubscribe mean a lost customer? What do you think it is?
So unsubscribe. So you're saying does unsubscribe means a lost customer, right?
Yes, that's the question.
So see, when the unsubscribe happens, they are unsubscribing from your email list. They might be or might not be your lost customer, right? Because they might end up buying on your app. They might end up buying on your website. So it does not really always mean that it's a lost customer. But one thing which is very important is it could be moving towards being a lost customer, right? So when someone unsubscribes from your messaging or from your communication or from your email list, it could also mean that they are moving out, they are disinterested. And if you continue to not make them happy, or not, if your content and products are no more interesting, they might also eventually move out as a customer. So I would say that it's moving towards a lost customer, but it might not be a lost customer at that moment.
Okay, okay. So we have another question. It says, of all the elements you spoke, which one is the most important according to you? That is the question.
Okay, so I think we spoke about a lot of elements. For me, everything boils down to how do you attend to people, right? So email ID is the most important point. So what I mean, it's like I said, it's an underdog. Your email ID is equal to people. So for me, if I have to pick one element and do it right, it will be email ID. I would treat them like people. I would create welcome programs which treats them like people. I would want to know them as I would know my friends and as I would know. And obviously, this is not possible at scale. You might have millions of users, and what you need to do is you need to figure out how you want to scale your email marketing campaigns by knowing your customers. So every time you try and send out an email, we can use CTAs to build personas or enrich your personas so that you have more information about your people, right? So even if there are millions of people in your list, they are at the end of the day people. Make sure that you don't have the wrong email addresses, you have the right validation processes in place, so you have right email IDs coming in, you have more information being built, you're treating them nicely and building more warmer content with them. Sometimes you will not get conversions or transactions, and which should be okay. The idea is to keep building conversations, and conversion will come as an outcome.
Yes, yes, Ganesh. So we have one other question in the chat box here.
Sure.
It says,
I can
can
see
you?
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light more on warming of ISPs and what is the general practice or standard is followed nowadays? Okay. Hi, Almas. Nice question. I think it's I think it's like when you hit a gym, do you go and lift heavy weight, or do you start light exercise, start warming up, start stretching up, and then you sort of move towards uh, heavy lifting, right? So email marketing, or when you are trying to inbox or getting started with email, is the same. You have to start warming up your IP and domain. The first time your domain is sending out email, it's a new domain or it's a fresh kind of content which is going to Google, Yahoo. So they are looking at you as a they might look at you with suspicion, but if you start sending out good content, there is good engagement happening, eventually they start liking you. But you cannot start sending out email on day one in large volumes, so you need to start doing warm up. With each with each mailbox provider, the warm up looks very different. Maybe Gmail, you start with 500 emails in a day, and if you're getting great engagement, try and double up next day and double up next day if you're still getting great engagement. If you're not getting great engagement, don't try and double up. See if you can just improve the volumes by 20-30% day on day. And one thing when you're doing warm up is essentially important is make sure that the content has sense of engagement. There are people who can click on the content. I mean, if it is just FYI content and there is not much engagement, then your warm up process would become slower. I hope that answers your question. Okay, happy to take up. All right, perfect. Happy to take up one more question in case there is. So I think we have.
We have
How
another
do you
question in the
different?
chat box.
Yeah. Hi, Amir. How do you differentiate what content to target? For example, content on demand requests from users versus pushing content. So good question, Amir. I think as a brand, you have a lot of content already planned, which you want to send out to your users. It could be your upcoming deal, upcoming festival, etc. What needs to be sent is the mix of how your user is responding to your previous conversations, right? For example, some users have not even responded once to your deal. And conceptually, you are again sending another deal to them. It's not a great content, even if it is like a new festival deal which is upcoming, right? So what you want to do is you want to create themes which are different from what you have been sending so that you can observe how your users are responding to them, right? And in case you have preference center, it will be great to collect preferences of your user, like what kind of content they would be interested in. Like mostly in B2B, they would be interested in newsletters or product announcements, etc., etc. In B2C, they would be interested in things which they particularly like to shop from your company. So those are the kind of content we would like to push, and it should always be experimental. It cannot be that you are just sending deal and every day you're just using the same team and sending them another revised percentage, and that should work. That might not work. Okay, I think we are all right, Amir. Thank you. I think we are through with our today's discussion, but this is a 30-minute session which we are doing every Thursday, 6 p.m. IST. In case you have any more questions, you can always ask me on Twitter or LinkedIn. You can connect with me and DM me your questions. I'm happy to take up your questions. And thank you for being such an amazing audience and interacting on this discussion. We look forward to meeting you again on the next Thursday with another topic. And yeah, see you soon and talk soon. And till then, keep believing that emails can drive growth. And thank you once again, everyone. This is Tanishq signing off.